How did Might go from S tier to completely useless? And which helmet kicked Harlequin Crest from the #1 spot of I want this? Welcome to the Mythic Tier List Season 6. And we will begin with the Heir of Perdition. What does it do and how good is it? First and foremost, 60% bonus damage. That's it. No matter what build you're playing, you're just getting 60% bonus damage. On top, it would be crit chance, movement speed, and lucky hit, and core skills. These core skills are another damage multiplier. We're getting our bone spirit from 176 up to 224. So it's not just 60% bonus damage. This helmet is not only straight up S tier, it also kind of dumpstered the Harlequin Crest since almost no build is using this one anymore. Hell, even a minion necromancer not using a single core skill could even use the Heir of Perdition and just increase their damage. Next up is Might, which everyone wanted at the start of this season, which is now in straight up competition with the Shroud of False Death. And Tyraels Might used to be absolute S tier. Resistance to all elements, damage reduction, maximum resistance to elements, movement speed, and that explosion that comes out of it. This drastically changed with the appearance of Shroud now. Now, before we continue, I got a message from our sponsor. Has anyone of you ever heard of Wartune Ultra? I first discovered the game back in 2013. Yes, I'm old, and definitely played it way too much during my studies. And I've been caught up in the recent weeks immersing myself again back into the game, especially since it now has a mobile version that's sharing progress between PC, Android, iPhone, which means playing on the toilet is an option. Wartune might look old, but it's still great fun to play. You get your city that you have to manage, upgrade, hire troops that go with you into combat, choose between a mage, an archer, and a warrior. Then play through the campaign, create your guild, team up in matches, PvP, or go out there and beat some of the big world bosses. And if you get caught playing this while working or studying, there is an AFK button to kind of automatize your fighting that you can keep making progress while you should be doing other stuff. Play the game already in the web, scan the QR code, get yourself the mobile version as soon as it's out, and then be able to play it anywhere where you want to. And if you ever wanted to visit China, Wartune Ultra is going to sponsor your trip. They get a giveaway on their Facebook page where 3 people can win a trip to China. I'll have the link in the description below with the participation details. You get until mid-November to join. Secure your trip right now. Before Shroud, it was straight up here. Now I would go so far to even put it into F tier because no one is playing it anymore. I'll be fair though and actually put it into the B tier. The simple thing is any build, profits from Shroud of the False Death. The only builds that don't want Shroud are the ones that, for example, need a chess piece to basically function. Unless that is the case, you're always taking Shroud of False Death, because the difference between Shroud and Might is that the Shroud adds big damage. In case of my Bone Necro, I'm getting 1 more rank in Avulsion, 5%, 1 more rank in Compound Fracture, 5% more damage, 1 more rank here, 2% more damage. We're getting another 6% more damage from Titan's Fall. There's another 5% damage from Imperfectly Balanced, another 5%. You get the drift. Shroud adding pure damage multipliers, while Might just makes you a bit more survivally. And let's be fair, what Might does, Yen's Blessing can do easily, or Reckoneth Awake, or even the Tacit of the Dawning Sky. You don't need a mythic for that. Which brings us to the Shroud of False Death. That one straight up catapulted itself into the S tier. You've just seen the calculation. No matter which build you're actually playing, this one will be good. This one will get you more damage. Going into the pit leaderboard, let's choose a Barbarian, for example. Mr. Beat Dropper is playing Shroud of False Death. How about Necromancer? Top 115 because the other one lands me on a Chinese site. Is also playing Shroud. And the #1 Spiritborn in the world with a super fast clear is playing Shroud too. Sork, for example, is still running Raymond of the Infinite to actually lead the pit leaderboard. You get the drift. Shroud is just simply OP. You get it, you're happy. Now to my favorite friend, the Melted Heart of Selig. I hate you so much. If you get the Melted Heart of Selig, you're gonna start crying. That one is straight away F tier. You get the Melted Heart of Selig, you're unhappy. The amulet spot is taken by anything but. You might get 60 more maximum resource and some damage reduction that you simply don't need. You're either going to be playing the Banished Lord's Talisman this season, or you're going to make yourself a stat amulet that gives you a huge multiplier plus your main stat percentage up as well. My druid has 3,500 willpower because of one of these. You clearly don't want the Melted Heart of Selig. You get that one, you're gonna dumpster it. You're gonna hate it. But what about the Harlequin Crest? Every build wanted the Harlequin Crest. +4 to all skill ranks. And the cool part about the +4 to all skill ranks is that does count for your ultimates. Certain builds that are extremely ultimate heavy, I'm looking at you, the Bloodwave build, might still profit from the Harlequin Crest. For me right now, playing Bone Spirit and being in the top 8 Necromancer leaderboard, I'm playing the Harlequin Crest because 26 maximum resource is 4% more damage for each point of resource. So the Harlequin Crest has its use, but it's a niche use at this point because it's not simply in every single build. If we're looking at the Heir of Perdition right now, you get that one and you just slap it on. You don't have a question. Harlequin Crest, you need to make sure, does this even make sense for my build? Sure, the cooldown reduction is still good, but worst case scenario, you could solve cooldown reduction over runes in a way. For me, Harlequin Crest used to be an absolute S tier choice, but whenever I see a mythic helmet pop up, I do honestly hope it's an Heir of Perdition with multiple greater affixes instead of the Harlequin Crest, which kind of makes me sad, especially when the greater affix lands on armor. To the fan favorite, a Ring of Starless Skies. Ultra S tier. I would put it in the S+ tier. With a greater affix and attack speed, that thing just soars beyond belief. Being able to just easily put this on your 100% attack speed, so you could go with the attack speed cap 2, then up to 200% attack speed. Every build wants this, even if you're not using core skills. My minion Necro is, for example, using his Curse. Spending your primary resource reduces the resource cost of your skills and increases your damage. If I curse 5 times, I would get 50% bonus damage. I don't even have to do main damage with a core skill to get the use of this. I'm spamming my Bone Spirit, which is funnily a core skill, using Ring of Starless Skies. You can put this on anything. You get this item and you know your build now has 50% more damage. Done. And your core skill will cost less. Double done. Fantastic. And one thing you might never have paid attention to, the Ring of Starless Skies, in comparison to a normal ring, this one has resistance to all elements and lightning resistance, and the Ring of Starless Skies just has both all resistances, making it even better and truly putting it into the S tier without any question. Now we're getting to the interesting last 5, including Nesekem The Herald. First, Doombringer though, and Doombringer is technically S tier, but only if you have the greater affix in maximum life. All stats? No. Damage reduction? No. And the lucky hit to heal? Absolutely not. I've now played the Doombringer in every single overpower build, and the biggest problem is that it's competing with chance for Bloodlance to deal double damage, chance for Bone Spirit to deal double damage. If you choose to play the Doombringer over an offhand with a one-hand, you cannot get your double damage up to 100%. That being said, if you have a greater life affix Doombringer, and you actually 2 times masterworked it, that's fantastic. That's almost always better than using a one-handed weapon with the chance for Blood Surge to deal double damage. Because in order for this one-handed weapon to compete with the Doombringer, I would have to triple masterwork the chance for Blood Surge to deal double damage to really make it worth it, to really then add up with my offhand to get the most out of it. And the Doombringer, with already 2 times masterworked on the maximum life, has so far outperformed every single time a double damage weapon. I've tried this on multiple builds for the Necro, and I've been very happy with the results that the Doombringer brings, which makes it for overpower builds an S tier. But if you're not planning to play an overpower build, you're actually going to be rather sad getting the Doombringer, because that maximum life is really good, and the damage reduction, hey, you can kind of put it into every single build, but it truly only shines in an overpower build. So considering that you would get it and you would be playing a rogue and you're not interested in overpower build, I guess you're screwed and you would only give it an A tier. But as soon as you get the maximum life roll and you want to play an overpower build, that straight up ends up into S tier. Now, what about the Grandfather? Because the Grandfather was used by everyone and their mom. I mean, every barbarian build did have the Grandfather in it. Straight up, no question. Double checked with the leaderboard to make sure I'm not crazy, but I do see my Doombringer because overpower gameplay, I assume, Shroud, Heir, and Starless Skies. but no grandfather. Most in the leaderboard are mighty throw barbs, but then there were multiple Asian players who actually play slightly different and do use the grandfather together with the Banished Lord's Talisman. So for Barbarian, it still seems to be an absolute S tier awesomeness. Whereas for the Necromancer right now, there are certain builds you can use it in, but it's never the best choice. It's always a, sure, I could use it, but you do really need to get it with a maximum roll on that life, all stats, even the damage. But the maximum resource is a big lackluster. I mean, that one here right now is straight up for the streets. Definitely not S tier. Would right now put it on a solid A tier, as you've seen that even the top Barbarian in the leaderboard does not need it. It's not required for that anymore. And I gotta say, if I find the grandfather, I'm like, hey, you could have been a Doombringer. You could have been anything else. So the happiness is just not there that used to be with the grandfather. You drop a Ring of Starless, guys, unconditional. You drop a Harlequin Crest, it's fine. You drop an Heir of Perdition or a Shroud of False Death, you're gonna be like, oh, this is so good, right? This is like the difference of the drops. I drop a Tyraels Might, I'm just like, why not a Shroud? And I drop a Melted Heart of Selig, and I'm just like, why do you hate me, Blizzard? I don't want to play anymore. And the same sadly goes for Andariels Visage. That item was so popular in Season 5. You had the Rogue, and you had even Sorceress using the Andariels Visage because they could heal with this and then use the Starlight aspect to restore resource like crazy. But this one got nerfed to an overheal of 120%, essentially making the Starless aspect unusable from this point on. And that kind of also killed all the excitement of Andariels Visage. Even rogues who have been playing these cool poison explosions with Fist of Fate super lucky hit, not a single one cropping up and doing well. Andariels Visage essentially went from the most desired one to I don't care if it drops. At this point, I put it on a solid B tier, as it does not seem to fit any role and no build is even remotely excited of seeing it. It is still fun to use and you can certainly put it into builds, but nowhere is it the former glory of the S tier awesomeness that it used to be. Rip the Starlight aspect. We used to enjoy you. Now to the new Spiritborn unique, and that one is interesting. Every 5 seconds, you randomly mark a nearby enemy. Marked enemies are vulnerable and your attacks against them are guaranteed to critical strike and overpower. Hitting a marked enemy 10 times clears the mark from them. Technically, it sounds brilliant. Hey, should we not use Nesekem The Herald to permanently overpower? And the big issue here is Nesekem is great, but Kepaleke is just simply better. Almost every single build is playing Kepaleke because the chance for your core skills to hit twice, bonus crit damage, and most importantly, when cast at maximum vigor, your core skills consume all vigor to return to full damage, cast at their largest size, and become guaranteed critical strikes with a 3% increased critical strike damage for each point of vigor spent this way. I cannot think about a build that's not playing Kepaleke. You can pick out any of these builds, and I'm probably going to try to not land on a Chinese website again, New Zealand and America, and it's the Rod of Kepaleke, followed up by, who would have thought, the Rod of Kepaleke, together with a Ring of Midnight Suns, because you drain your vigor, get your vigor, drain your vigor, get your vigor, drain. You get the drift. It's an infinite loop, which makes Nesekem an okay weapon, just that no one wants to play it, since a normal unique that you can easily get with 1, 2, or even 3 greater affixes if you farm the bosses enough. Yeah, it just easily equips a Nesekem, especially since there are other items you might want to have, like the Ring of Starless Skies or the Heir of Perdition, even the Shroud of False Death on a lot of these builds. That's where Nesekem is actually, I mean, almost at F tier because it's just unusable. It's not that the weapon is bad. It's just literally that in the day and age, in the current time, it's just marked as completely unusable. There's not a single reason to be excited. This one drops and you're gonna be like, oh great, I got another Resplendent Spark. Fantastic. And now last and least, the Shattered Vow. Lucky hit up to a 44% chance to become Berserking. Okay, fine, but you can become Berserking otherwise. And then enemies afflicted by more damage over time than remaining life are executed. This technically sounds great, to be able to instantly execute someone, especially if you play that bleed barb and completely overload them with bleed. The biggest problem with damage over time in general is it cannot crit, and it cannot overpower. Unless you do some weird heinous things with the Banished Lord's Talisman or the Zan Overpower rune, they cannot overpower, they cannot crit. And which builds are currently ruling everywhere? What are people playing? What's doing the most damage? Crit overpower builds. For the Necromancer, crit overpower builds. For the Barbarian, crit overpower builds. For the Sorcerer, I don't actually know. I assume it's a crit build. Oh, and for the Druid, it's crit overpower builds. Ta-da. I mean, that is Storm Strike, Hurricane crit overpower. That is Boulder crit overpower. All of these are crit overpower builds. Not a single one is even saying, hey, how about damage over time? Damage over time truly has zero identity. Might as well get removed from the game and no one would miss it. I would miss it. I like damage over time. Right now, you drop a Shattered Vow and you're going to be, it could have been anything else. I am genuinely unhappy about seeing that one. What do you say, chat? Would you agree? Is this kind of like something we can be with? Heir, definitely S tier. Then Shroud and Starless. Right now, the Harlequin, the Doom, and the Grandfather, because of situational, into the A tier. Ty, together with Andariels, B. And then Melted Heart of Selig, Nesekem, and Shattered Vow sitting in the F tier. I think we spread this out really well, but I would like to see what you think in the comments below. And if you're not looking to drastically increase your damage, here's a video that will help you with that, or a Necromancer build guide on the Spirit server, which is clearing Pit 100 and beyond. Enjoy and have a fantastic good day.